Welcome to Kiss and Chapters, where every story begins with a spark and ends with a swoon. If you love heart-fluttering romances, unexpected twists, and characters you'll root for, you're in the right place. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so I can keep bringing you more sweet, emotional, and unforgettable stories. Let's fall in love with every chapter, together. Chapter 1: The End and the Beginning. The cold palace was silent, save for the occasional rustle of wind seeping through broken screens. It smelled of damp stone, old incense, and despair. She sat slumped against a cracked pillar, her phoenix robe trailing across the dusty floor. The once brilliant crimson silk was faded, her hairpins stolen by palace maids who no longer bowed to her, and her face was pale, drawn thin by sickness and grief. She was the Empress of Great Liang. Yet at this moment she was no more than a discarded shadow of herself, cast aside by the man she had loved all her life. From the distance, faint laughter drifted toward her. She knew that voice well. It belonged to her younger sister, once her closest companion, now the emperor's favored consort. Her lips curled into a faint, bitter smile. So this is the ending prepared for me? Abandoned wife, forgotten sister. All my devotion turned to ashes. For 10 years she had tried to reach him. She had stood by his side when he was still crown prince, offering counsel, sharing burdens, enduring his coldness because she believed, naively, that one day he would see her loyalty. Instead he had only grown more distant, his rare smiles reserved for another. A sharp pain spread through her chest. She coughed, blood staining her handkerchief. Her body, once graceful and proud, was now frail and broken, poisoned slowly over months by unseen hands. She knew who had ordered it. The emperor had not stopped them. Perhaps he had even allowed it. Her vision blurred, but her thoughts remained sharp. I was a fool, she whispered hoarsely. If only I could live again, I would never choose this path. I would never be Empress. I would never love you. Her voice faded, carried away by the cold wind that swept through the ruined palace. Darkness claimed her. When she opened her eyes again, it was not darkness that greeted her. A soft glow of lanterns painted the room golden. Above her was not the cracked ceiling of the cold palace, but the embroidered canopy of her maiden chamber. The scent of fresh plum blossoms wafted in through the open window, and the bedding beneath her was warm and clean. She sat up abruptly, her body trembling. Her gaze darted across the familiar furnishings. The carved wooden screen with painted cranes, the vanity table with a bronze mirror, the shelves of poetry scrolls she had once cherished. No, she whispered. Her hand flew to her face, to skin that was smooth and youthful, her cheeks flushed with life. She stumbled toward the mirror, her reflection staring back at her. It was the face of a 17-year-old girl. Her wedding had not yet taken place. The imperial edict had not yet arrived. She had returned. Second chance. Her chest heaved with uneven breaths. The memory of poison and betrayal still burned in her bones, but here she stood, reborn to the days before her fate was sealed. Her thoughts swirled wildly, relief, disbelief, and a sharp surge of determination. Heaven had granted her another life and she would not squander it. The door creaked open. A girl of 15 entered, her smile sweet, her features delicate and unguarded. Elder sister, you're awake? Father asked me to fetch you. The imperial edict will arrive today. His Majesty has chosen you to be crown princess. The younger sister. Her heart clenched. In her past life, this girl had been both her closest confidant and the sharpest thorn in her chest. Not because she was cruel. No, her sister had always been kind and gentle, but because fate had twisted their lives into rivals. The emperor had adored her instead. And in the end, it was she who replaced her as empress, standing triumphant in silks while the true wife withered away in shadow. The reborn empress clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms. This time it would not happen again. She looked at her sister carefully. Her smile was genuine, her eyes bright. There was no malice there. Just innocence. He was not the enemy. The true enemy was the path she herself had chosen. Forcing calm into her voice, she asked softly, "Sister, tell me, would you like to be empress?" Her sister blinked, startled. Me? Elder sister, what are you saying? I could never. That honor belongs to you. Does it? She smiled faintly, her voice distant as her gaze drifted to the window where plum blossoms swayed in the breeze. Honors are cages in disguise. What use is the golden phoenix crown if it weighs heavy enough to break one's neck? Her sister laughed nervously, waving her hands. Elder sister must be teasing. Every girl in the capital envies you. To marry the crown prince is to be blessed for life. Blessed. The word twisted like a knife. In her previous life she had believed the same. But now she knew, blessedness could be colder than death. Still she did not speak of her suffering. It would do no good. Instead she reached out, taking her sister's hand. Her grip was firm, her eyes steady. Listen to me. If the chance ever comes, do not fear. You may take my place. Her sister's brows furrowed in confusion, but she did not press further. She only squeezed her elder sister's hand back and changed the subject, rambling about dresses and ceremonies. The reborn woman only smiled faintly. Inside her resolve hardened. This life she would not be empress. This life she would walk away from the golden cage and choose freedom. Even if the world called her mad, even if the emperor himself stood in her way, she would not falter. Far across the capital, in the secluded chambers of the crown prince, another dream ended. He awoke with a strangled cry, his chest heaving, his robes soaked with sweat. His attendants rushed forward in alarm, but he waved them away with shaking hands. Memories crashed into him like waves. Memories of a woman's quiet devotion, of cold gazes he had given her, of bitter words and cruel silences. Memories of her pale figure slumped in the cold palace, poisoned and alone. The Empress. His Empress. He clutched at his chest, the weight of regret pressing down until he could barely breathe. In his past life he had dismissed her love as duty, ignored her as if she were nothing more than a shadow. Only after her death had he realized the depth of her devotion, and by then it had been too late. But now. His gaze sharpened. The furnishings around him were familiar, yet not the same. He recognized the youthful faces of his attendants, the absence of imperial regalia. He too had returned. Second chance. And this time he swore he would not waste it. No matter what it took, he would not let her slip away again. Chapter 2. The Imperial Edict. The morning sun rose pale and misty, its light spilling across the sprawling estate of the Prime Minister's household. Servants scurried in and out of the gates, their voices hushed with excitement and awe. Today was not an ordinary day. Today the imperial edict was to arrive. Inside her chamber, the young lady who was destined to be empress sat stiffly before her vanity. Her maids fluttered about, arranging her hair into the proper style for the occasion. Jade hairpins were slid into place, silken robes smoothed over her shoulders. In the bronze mirror, a flawless maiden stared back, youthful, dignified, every inch the picture of a crown princess to be. But inside her heart was restless. Her mind replayed the scene of her last death, the bitterness of betrayal, the suffocating silence of the cold palace. Her chest tightened with remembered pain. She clenched her hands in her lap, nails biting into her palms until her maid exclaimed, "My lady, you'll ruin your skin." She forced her hands open, smiling faintly to mask her turmoil. A drum sounded outside, followed by the cry, "The imperial edict has arrived." The household gathered in the main courtyard. Her father, the prime minister, stood tall and proud, his hands clasped behind his back, eyes glinting with satisfaction. Her mother and sister stood to the side, both dressed formally. The entire family was ready to receive the emperor's will. The eunuch holding the golden scroll stepped forward with practiced grandeur. His high voice carried across the courtyard. "By the will of heaven and his majesty's command, the daughter of the prime minister is hereby betrothed to the crown prince as crown princess." The words rang out like shackles closing around her. Everyone dropped to their knees. Her father's face glowed with triumph. Her mother bowed with tears of joy. Her younger sister peeked at her with awe. But she, reborn, determined, felt cold sweat down her back. She had sworn never to walk that path again. When the eunuch held the edict toward her, waiting for her to kneel and accept, she remained frozen. Whispers rippled through the gathered servants. Her father's eyes flicked toward her in sharp warning. Her lips parted. The words she had never dared to speak in her past life trembled on her tongue. "This daughter." Her voice was soft, yet carried enough weight that silence fell. All eyes turned toward her. "Is unworthy of such honor." Gasps filled the courtyard. Her father's face darkened. What nonsense is this? Kneel at once and receive His Majesty's grace. The eunuch stiffened, scandalized. Miss, this is the Emperor's will. To refuse is to defy heaven itself. Her mother clutched her sleeve in panic, whispering fiercely, Child, do not be reckless. Her younger sister's eyes widened in shock. But the reborn woman lifted her chin, her gaze steady despite the trembling in her chest. I am sickly and lacking in virtue. How can I bear the weight of the crown princess title? To deceive His Majesty would be to bring shame upon the throne. It was not entirely false. In her past life her health had weakened over the years. But this time she wielded the excuse as a shield. Her father's fury burned in his eyes, but before he could speak further, the eunuch raised a hand. These words are grave and must be reported to His Majesty. The edict cannot be received until the matter is clarified. He rolled up the scroll, bowing stiffly. This servant shall return to the palace at once. And with that the grand procession turned and departed, leaving the household in stunned silence. Her father's voice broke like thunder. You foolish girl. The courtyard trembled with his anger. Do you understand what you've done? His Majesty's grace is not something one rejects. You've humiliated our family. Her mother wept softly, pleading with her. My daughter, why would you do such a thing? Do you not know what blessings others pray for day and night? Her younger sister only stared, confusion and something unreadable flickering in her eyes. But the reborn woman stood her ground. Father, mother, forgive me. I cannot accept the palace. If you love me, do not force me. The Prime Minister's hands clenched at his sides. Never before had his obedient daughter defied him so openly. Before he could lash out, a servant rushed into the courtyard, falling to his knees. Prime Minister. A messenger from the palace. His Highness the Crown Prince himself requests an audience with the young lady. The household froze. The Crown Prince never personally came to a minister's residence. Her blood ran cold. He's already moving. In the capital's bustling streets, an imperial carriage made its way toward the Prime Minister's manor. Inside, the Crown Prince sat with uncharacteristic restlessness. His hand drummed against his knee, his dark eyes sharp with determination. He remembered the last time, the lifeless look in her eyes, the bitterness of her final words. This time he would not let her push him away. If she dared reject the edict, he would come himself to change her mind. No matter what it took, she would not escape him. Chapter 3. The Crown Prince arrives. The Prime Minister's residence was thrown into chaos. Servants rushed to sweep pathways, polish railings, and burn incense as if scrambling could erase the stain of their young lady's shocking refusal of the edict. Her father strode back and forth in the receiving hall, his face stormy. The Crown Prince himself. Do you know how grave this is? If you anger him, our entire clan could be ruined. Her mother wrung her hands. Child, beg his forgiveness. No matter what excuses you gave earlier, you must not resist him face to face. But the young lady, reborn and resolute, sat with her hands folded calmly in her lap. In her past life she had trembled at every shift in palace favor. This time she had tasted death already. There was nothing left to fear. Still, her heart beat hard when the sound of wheels and hoofs reached the gates. The Crown Prince had come. He stepped down from the carriage, clad in dark robes embroidered with golden dragons, his presence commanding without effort. Tall, sharp-browed, and severe, he carried himself with the cold authority that had once frozen her heart again and again. Yet now, as his eyes swept over the Prime Minister's household, there was something different, something unfamiliar. His gaze softened when it fell on her. The Crown Prince, who in the past life had never once looked at her with warmth, now looked at her as though she were the only person in the world. She stiffened, her chest tightening. Why does he look at me like that? The family prostrated themselves, but the Crown Prince lifted a hand. There is no need for such formality. This prince has come only to see Lady Shen. Her father's face was pale, sweat shining at his temples. Your Highness, please forgive my daughter's foolish words. She was nervous, unwell. The Crown Prince's brows furrowed and he turned his gaze on her directly. Is this true? She rose slowly, her robes whispering across the floor. Meeting his eyes, she forced her voice steady. Your Highness, I am grateful for the honor bestowed upon me, but I am weak and sickly. I fear I will not live long enough to serve you well. It would be better if His Majesty chose another. Gasps filled the hall. Her father's knuckles whitened against the armrest. The crown prince was silent for a long moment. His attendants shifted uneasily, expecting fury. After all, who dared reject him? Then, to everyone's shock, he spoke gently. If you are unwell, then this prince will summon the best physicians in the empire to treat you. Her breath caught. In her past life she had fallen ill often, but he had never once visited her bedside. Not once. And now, reborn, he spoke as though her life were the most precious treasure. She forced herself not to waver. Your Highness, I truly do not wish to enter the palace. Her father made a strangled sound, nearly collapsing on the spot. But the crown prince only stepped closer, his gaze unwavering. He lowered his voice so only she could hear. Last time I let you slip away. That will not happen again. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Last time? Her eyes widened, but before she could speak he straightened, his voice calm for all to hear. The matter of the edict need not be discussed further today. This prince will return tomorrow. He turned, robes sweeping behind him, and left the hall without waiting for approval. The Prime Minister's household sat frozen in stunned silence. Never before had the Crown Prince shown such patience, such indulgence. Her sister whispered, eyes bright with curiosity, "Elder sister, what did he say to you?" But she could not answer. Her heart still echoed with his quiet words, laden with strange familiarity. I let you slip away. Could it be? Her blood ran cold. Was the Crown Prince also reborn? That night she lay awake beneath her embroidered canopy, the weight of his gaze haunting her even in dreams. In the palace, the Crown Prince stood alone beneath the moonlight, his jaw clenched. He remembered her lifeless form in the cold palace, the regret that had consumed him until his final breath. This time he swore he would not let her reject him. Even if she dreamed of freedom, he would bind her heart to his. Chapter 4: A Cage of Gold. The Prime Minister's manner had never felt so stifling. Servants walked on tiptoe, careful not to draw her father's wrath. Ever since the Crown Prince's unexpected visit, the air in the household buzzed with uneasy tension. For her it was worse. No matter where she turned, the shadow of the palace loomed closer. She sat in her chambers, brush poised over a scroll, though the ink had already bled into a dark blotch. Her younger sister leaned over curiously, eyes wide with admiration. "Elder sister, do you realize? His Highness came personally for you. Everyone in the capital will talk of it. You are truly fortunate." Fortunate? Her lips twisted in a faint smile. "Do you think so?" Her sister nodded eagerly. "Of course. He must care for you deeply to show such regard." Care. The word cut into her heart. In her past life she had longed for his care until her last breath. She had received only silence. And now, after rebirth, when her heart had hardened, he came with tenderness she no longer wanted. She set down her brush. "Sister, what if the Crown Princess were you instead?" Her sister's eyes widened, her cheeks flushing. "Elder sister, you jest. How could that be? Why not?" She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "You are gentle, beautiful, everything a man desires. The Crown Prince, perhaps he would treasure you more than he ever could me." Her sister shook her head quickly, alarmed. "Do not say such things. Father would never allow it, and neither would His Highness. He has already chosen you." But her words planted a seed of thought, her gaze flickering with something unreadable. The reborn woman sighed inwardly. It was dangerous to meddle, but she could not ignore the chance. If her sister took her place, perhaps both their fates could change. That evening she prepared a letter. With careful strokes she wrote her plea. "This daughter is unworthy of the position bestowed upon her. My younger sister is far more virtuous, gentle, and suited for His Highness. I beg His Majesty to reconsider." She folded it swiftly, sealing it with her personal stamp. If she could deliver it through a trusted servant to the palace, perhaps she could untangle herself before the cage closed around her. But before she could summon a maid, a deep voice spoke from behind her. "You wish to replace yourself with your sister?" Her blood ran cold. He spun around. The Crown Prince stood in the doorway, his tall frame outlined by lantern light. He held the letter in his hand, his gaze sharp as blades. Her heart thundered. "Your Highness, how Did you think your every move would escape me? His tone was calm, but beneath it ran a dangerous current. He stepped closer, placing the letter on her table. Even in this life you tried to push me away. Her lips parted, words caught in her throat. In this life. Her suspicion hardened into certainty. He too was reborn. She forced herself to meet his gaze. Your Highness, do you not see? My sister is better suited for you. She would make you happier. Happier. He almost laughed, but it was a sound without mirth. His dark eyes bored into hers. I was emperor once already. I had all the power, all the beauty, all the loyalty the world could offer. None of it mattered. I let the one person who loved me most die alone. Her breath hitched. His voice lowered, carrying raw sincerity. I will not repeat that mistake. You are mine in this life and the next. No sister, no excuse will change that. Her pulse raced, a storm of emotions she could not untangle. Regret, longing, fear, defiance. How could she fight a man who carried both imperial power and the weight of shared rebirth? She drew a sharp breath, whispering, I only want freedom. Why must you bind me? He leaned closer, his expression unreadable. Because in binding you I free myself. The words hung heavy in the air. Before she could reply, her father's voice echoed from the corridor, summoning them to the receiving hall. The crown prince straightened, his expression cool once more, though his eyes lingered on her. As he left, the sealed letter lay torn upon the table. Her one chance at escape had been destroyed. And the golden cage drew closer. That night she sat awake beneath the lantern's glow, her heart heavy. Across the city, the crown prince stood on the palace terrace, gazing at the stars with clenched fists. In his past life he had been too proud, too cold. In this life he would chain her heart to his, even if she fought him every step of the way. Chapter 5. The Emperor's Regret. The palace gates loomed high and cold, gilded in sunlight yet wrapped in shadows. Li Xiu had once dreamed of passing through them in red silk, her face veiled and heart trembling with hope. Now in this second life she stood at a distance, hidden beneath a plain cloak, watching her younger sister Mei Lin step into the very fate she had rejected. Mei Lin turned back once, her delicate brows furrowed with worry. Sister, are you certain? Li Xiu reached out, smoothing the stray strand of hair from her sister's face. You were always meant for gentleness. With your heart you will bring warmth where I only found cold. Go without fear. I will be here always. Her words were steady, but her chest tightened as she spoke them. She had chosen freedom, yet watching her sister walk the path she once endured stirred both relief and unease. Inside the palace, the crown prince, Li Feng, waited. In his past life, this very day had been a blur to him. A political arrangement, another duty to accept with indifference. But now, standing in the same hall where he once met his Empress, his heart thundered. She will come. She must come. When the doors opened and he saw not Li Xiu, but her sister Mei Lin in bridal robes, the world tilted. His hand clenched around the jade cup on the throne's armrest until a crack ran through it. Who is this? His voice was calm but icy enough to freeze the room. The officials bowed low, none daring to speak. At last the Grand Chancellor stammered, Your Majesty, this is Lady Mei Lin. The marriage has been arranged by the Prime Minister. She is the chosen bride. Li Feng's jaw tightened. Memories surged, his Empress's sorrow, her lonely nights, the regret that had haunted him until death. He had sworn, reborn, that he would find her again. Cherish her this time. Protect her. And yet, she had slipped through his grasp. Li Feng rose slowly, his golden robes flowing like molten sunlight, and strode forward. Mei Lin trembled under his piercing gaze. Where is your sister? He demanded, voice low but sharp enough to cut steel. Mei Lin faltered, glancing away. She had promised not to betray Li Xiu's wishes. But the weight of the crown prince's stare pressed heavily. She does not wish to enter the palace, Your Majesty. Silence crashed into the hall. For the first time in his reign, the crown prince laughed, not with amusement, but with fury edged in desperation. Does she think she can cast me aside as if I were nothing? His chest rose and fell, ragged with emotions too long buried. But beneath the anger was something no one dared name: fear. Fear that he had lost her again. He dismissed the court abruptly and retreated to his private chambers, where he crushed a porcelain cup in his hand, blood streaking against white shards. Li Xiu, he whispered hoarsely. In this life you will not escape me. Meanwhile, outside the palace walls, Li Xiu breathed in the autumn air. She had bought a modest courtyard home and planned to live quietly, free of silken cages and gilded chains. But as she closed the wooden gate behind her, a shiver ran down her spine, as though an unseen gaze had found her already. And indeed, in the shadows beyond the walls, a pair of sharp eyes watched. The crown prince had begun his pursuit. Chapter 6. The First Confrontation. The moonlight spilled silver across the quiet courtyard. Li Xiu sat by the window, her brush moving steadily across parchment. She wrote not decrees nor memorials but poetry, the kind of verses she had once abandoned when trapped in the palace. Her words carried dreams of freedom, of open skies and untethered wings. She had just set her brush aside when the faint crunch of footsteps broke the stillness. Her head snapped up. No servant lived with her, she had chosen solitude. The wooden door creaked open. There, framed by moonlight, stood the man she had vowed to avoid. Li Feng. Not the cold emperor seated high above the world, but a man, tall, cloaked in shadows, his gaze burning with an intensity that made the air tremble. Li Xiu's breath caught, but she forced herself to stillness. Your Majesty should not be here. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him with deliberate calm. And yet here I am. His voice was low, almost raw. Why, Li Xiu? Why did you give my throne to another? Why did you turn away from me? Her lips curved into a bitter smile. Have you forgotten? I was once your empress. I spent years by your side, waiting for a single glance, a single word of warmth. What did I receive, Li Feng? Silence. Coldness. Betrayal. I will not walk that road again. He flinched at her words as if they were blades. Memories of her lonely figure in their previous life pierced him. Her silent tears, her steady devotion met with his indifference. I was blind, he admitted, stepping closer. A fool who only understood your worth when it was too late. Heaven granted me another life, Xiu. I will not waste it. Not again. Her heart trembled at the sincerity in his tone, but she forced herself to turn away. Do not call me that. I am no longer your empress. I am simply Li Xiu, a woman who wants her freedom. He moved closer still, the distance between them shrinking until she could feel the heat radiating from him. His hand lifted, hesitating in the air before brushing against her sleeve. You may abandon the throne, the palace, the title, but you cannot abandon me. She jerked back as though burned, her eyes flashing. Watch me. For the first time, the emperor, ruler of all under heaven, looked stricken as if she had struck him across the face. Yet instead of anger, his lips curved into a grim, determined smile. Then I will chase you, he whispered. For one lifetime you waited for me. In this one I will wait for you. No matter how far you run, Li Xiu, I will find you. He turned and left as suddenly as he had come, his golden cloak vanishing into the night. Li Xiu stood frozen, her pulse racing, her carefully built walls shaken. She had sworn to free herself, to live unbound. But the heat of his gaze lingered like fire on her skin. Freedom had seemed simple, until the emperor himself pursued her. Chapter 7. Freedom Interrupted. The morning sun filtered through the mulberry trees, scattering golden light across Li Xiu's courtyard. She had begun to carve out a rhythm for herself, watering her small garden, tending to books, and sometimes selling her calligraphy to passing merchants. It was a modest life, but it was hers. For the first time in 2 lifetimes she felt free. Or so she thought. When she opened her gate that morning, she nearly stumbled. A line of servants stood outside, their heads bowed, arms heavy with bolts of silk, trays of rare teas and boxes of jewels. At their head stood eunuch Zhao, the emperor's most trusted attendant, smiling with polished courtesy. Lady Li, he said, bowing low. His Majesty bids you accept these small tokens of regard. Li Xiu's expression hardened. I am no consort of the emperor. Take them back. Eunuch Zhao's smile did not falter. His Majesty anticipated such modesty. He instructed me to say, if she throws them out the front door, I will bring them back through the window. Her hands clenched at her sides. Tell him I want nothing. Eunuch Zhao bowed again and the servants retreated, leaving the gifts behind despite her protests. By noon her neighbors had gathered outside, whispering. Such fortune, the emperor himself sends her gifts, one woman gushed. Perhaps she will rise higher than the Empress herself. Li Xiu's chest tightened. This was exactly what she had wished to avoid. Freedom could not bloom under the Emperor's shadow. That evening, as she walked along the riverbank to clear her thoughts, a familiar figure appeared beneath the willows. Li Feng. He was dressed simply without crown or robe, yet his presence commanded the air around him. Fishermen and travelers bowed instinctively, sensing authority even when it was hidden. Li Xiu's steps faltered, but she forced her chin up. Have you no pride following me so openly? Pride. His lips curved faintly. I cast it aside the moment I realized what I lost. She turned sharply to leave, but his voice followed her, low and urgent. Do you think I don't know what you want? You dream of freedom. But freedom is not the absence of bonds. It is choosing the ones worth keeping. His words struck deeper than she wished to admit. She spun to face him, eyes blazing. And what of my sister? She is Empress now. Would you betray her too? Li Feng's expression softened. I will honor her position, but the throne does not decide my heart. It has always belonged to you, even when I was too blind to see it. For a heartbeat, silence hung heavy between them, broken only by the rustle of the willow leaves. Li Xiu clenched her fists, willing her heart to remain steady. Your Majesty, leave me be. I will not return to that prison of silk and sorrow. His gaze darkened with resolve. Then I will bring the palace to you. Before she could respond, he turned and walked away, leaving the riverbank colder than before. Li Xiu's breath shook. She had built her new life brick by brick, yet with every step he took toward her, it crumbled a little more. The Emperor had declared war, not against nations but against her freedom. And she was not certain she could withstand it. Chapter 8. The palace calls her back. Autumn rains swept through the capital, turning the palace courtyard slick with fallen leaves. Within the grand halls, whispers of unrest stirred. Whispers that reached even Li Xiu's quiet courtyard. She had tried to ignore them. Tried to live each day as if the Emperor's gaze did not follow her every step. But that fragile peace shattered when Mei Lin arrived in the dead of night, her bridal veil long cast aside, her face pale with fear. Sister, Mei Lin gasped, clutching her hand. The court is tearing me apart. Li Xiu pulled her inside, alarm flaring. What do you mean? Mei Lin's voice trembled. The Empress Dowager scolds me daily. The concubines spread rumors. And His Majesty, she hesitated, guilt flickering across her features. He shows no interest in me. They say I am unfit to be Empress. That I was merely a substitute for you. Li Xiu's chest tightened. She had tried to shield her sister by pushing her into the role she herself had once suffered through. But perhaps she had only given Mei Lin her burdens. Have you spoken with the Emperor? Li Xiu asked softly. Mei Lin shook her head, tears brimming. I cannot face him. He looks at me but I feel as though he sees only you. Sister, what am I to do? Before Li Xiu could answer, heavy footsteps echoed outside her courtyard. The door slid open without permission and there he was, Li Feng, rain dripping from his dark cloak, eyes sharp as a blade. His gaze swept the room, lingering only briefly on Mei Lin before locking onto Li Xiu. So, he said quietly, though the force behind his words filled the room, you thought to send your sister into my palace in your place. Did you believe I would not know? Li Xiu rose, shielding Mei Lin behind her. She is your Empress now. Whatever grievance you have, take it up with me, not her. Li Feng's lips curved in something between anger and desperation. I never wanted her. It was always you. Mei Lin's breath hitched, tears spilling. She pushed past her sister, voice breaking. Then why marry me at all? Am I nothing to you? For the first time the Emperor faltered, guilt flickering in his eyes. But he did not withdraw his words. You deserve pity, not lies. My heart belongs to one person only. His eyes softened as they rested on Li Xiu. And she stands before me now. Li Xiu's pulse raced, fury and sorrow colliding within her. You shame her. You shame me. Have you no sense of honor? Honor kept me from you once, he said, stepping closer. I will not let it steal you from me again. The rain roared outside, thunder shaking the heavens as though the skies themselves bore witness to their tangled fate. Mei Lin collapsed to her knees, sobbing. Then what am I to you? A shadow? Sister, you cannot leave me like this. Li Xiu's heart twisted painfully. In trying to escape her chains, she had bound her sister in them instead. And the Emperor's relentless pursuit only tightened the noose around them all. Chapter 9. The Chains of the Palace. The rain had not ceased in 3 days, as if the heavens themselves mourned the tangled fates of the Li sisters. Inside her modest courtyard, Li Xiu paced restlessly. Mei Lin had returned to the palace after that stormy night, but her words still echoed in Li Xiu's ears. "Sister, you cannot leave me like this." Freedom had once seemed simple, just stepping away from the throne, from duty, from chains. But the truth was harsher. Every decision she made rippled outward, catching her sister, the Emperor, even the court in its grasp. And the court had noticed. The summons came abruptly, a decree sealed with the imperial dragon. Li Xiu was ordered to enter the palace. She stood at the gates once more, the place she had sworn never to return to. Her heart pounded as the familiar scent of sandalwood and wet stone wrapped around her. Eunuch Zhao greeted her with a knowing smile. "His Majesty awaits." The throne hall was empty save for one man. Li Feng sat not on the dragon throne but on the steps below it, golden robes pooling around him. He rose as she entered, his eyes drinking her in as though she were the only soul in the world. "You came," he murmured. Li Xiu kept her spine straight. "The Emperor commands, and who am I to refuse?" He flinched at her cold tone. "Must you speak as though there is nothing between us but titles?" "There is nothing," she said firmly. "Not anymore." His jaw tightened. "And yet you returned. You could have defied my decree, hidden yourself away. But you came." She bit her lip. He was right, though she loathed to admit it. She had come for Mei Lin's sake, for her sister drowning in palace politics, for the guilt that gnawed at her heart. Li Feng stepped closer, his voice dropping low. "The court is restless. They whisper that the Empress is weak, that only you have the strength to stand beside me. Already factions stir, eager to see you replace her." Her breath caught. "I will not. I refuse to steal what is hers." His gaze softened, but his words struck like thunder. "Then stand beside her. Stand beside me. If you will not be Empress, then be my ally. You are the only one I trust, Li Xiu." The sincerity in his tone shook her resolve. He had once been distant, untouchable, a man of ice. But now he stood before her, stripped of pride, laying bare his regrets. Her heart wavered dangerously. Yet before she could answer, hurried footsteps echoed through the hall. A maid stumbled in, bowing frantically. "Your Majesty, the Empress has collapsed, poisoned they suspect." Li Xiu's blood ran cold. Li Feng's face darkened, fury and dread twisting his features. He turned to Li Xiu, his voice rough with urgency. "Come with me. Mei Lin needs you." And so, against every vow she had made to herself, Li Xiu followed him into the heart of the palace, the very place she had sworn to escape. For freedom could wait. Her sister's life could not. Chapter 10. Entwined Fates. The air inside the Empress's chambers was thick with incense and panic. Physicians knelt around Mei Lin's bed, their faces drawn. Her lips were pale, her breath shallow, her pulse fluttering like a broken wing. Li Xiu rushed to her side, seizing her sister's cold hand. "Mei Lin, stay with me." The physician bowed low. "My lady, the Empress has been poisoned. A rare toxin, subtle, deadly. If the antidote is not found soon," his voice faltered. Li Feng stood near the bed, his golden robes damp from the rain, his expression thunderous. "Who dares?" His voice carried the weight of the throne, promising death to all who betrayed him. But Li Xiu heard only the faint rasp of her sister's breathing. Guilt consumed her. She had thought to free Mei Lin by giving her the palace, but instead she had condemned her to its venomous games. Bending close, she whispered fiercely, "Hold on. I will not let the palace steal you from me." For 2 nights she remained at Mei Lin's bedside, refusing to rest. She oversaw the decoctions, questioned the physicians, even searched the storerooms for rare herbs herself. Li Feng never left either. Though he kept to the shadows, every time Mei Lin's condition worsened, his gaze shifted to Li Xiu, watchful, aching, helpless. On the 3rd day Mei Lin finally stirred. Her lashes fluttered open and her weak voice rasped, "Sister, don't blame yourself." Li Xiu's tears fell unchecked. "Hush. You must save your strength." But Mei Lin's frail fingers clutched hers tightly. "He looks at you, not me. even now. And yet I do not hate you. I only beg, do not let the palace devour you too. Her eyes slid shut again, but her words lodged deep in Li Xiu's heart. Later, when the danger had passed and Mei Lin slept peacefully, Li Xiu stepped outside into the quiet courtyard. The night air was cool, the moon bright against the clouds. Li Feng followed her, his footsteps soft but certain. She did not turn as she spoke. You nearly cost me my sister. If she had died, I would never have forgiven you. His voice was low, thick with regret. I know. And yet, I would have borne your hatred if it meant keeping you near me. Her chest tightened painfully. Why can you not let me go? Why must you bind me still? He came closer, his presence overwhelming, his voice unsteady for the first time. Because I love you, Li Xiu. I loved you too late once. I will not love you too late again. She spun to face him, her eyes flashing with anger and sorrow. Love? Do you think love is enough to erase a lifetime of coldness? Of betrayal? No. His hand lifted, trembling slightly as it hovered near her cheek. But it is enough to begin again. The tears she had buried for 2 lives threatened to spill. She wanted to push him away, to cling to her freedom. Yet her heart, traitorous, weary, aching, beat wildly beneath his gaze. At last she whispered, if you truly love me, then do not cage me. Let me choose. His eyes softened, a storm giving way to dawn. He bowed his proud head, the emperor humbling himself before her. Then choose me freely or not at all. But know this, Li Xiu, I will spend this life proving I am worthy of your choice. For the first time she saw not the cold ruler who had once broken her, but a man stripped bare of pride, desperate for redemption. The moonlight bathed them in silver as silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken promises. And though Li Xiu did not yet give him her heart, for the first time she did not turn away. Bonus chapter: The Garden Beyond the Palace. Spring sunlight warmed the imperial gardens, spilling over plum blossoms in full bloom. The palace, once a place of shadows and cold memories, seemed softer now, its courtyards filled with laughter, its halls echoing not with fear but with quiet contentment. Li Xiu walked along a winding path, her sleeves brushing against the blossoms. A gentle breeze stirred, carrying the fragrance of new life. Behind her she heard footsteps she had long grown accustomed to. You escape here every spring, Li Feng said, his tone half chiding, half amused. The emperor no longer wore heavy crowns or formal robes when he came to her. Today he was dressed in plain silk, a man rather than a sovereign. Li Xiu glanced back, lips curving faintly. The flowers do not judge. They do not bind. Here I can breathe. He came to stand beside her, his hand brushing hers before settling carefully into her grasp. Unlike in the past, she did not pull away. They say an empress must rule the inner court, he murmured. But I have only ever wished for you to rule my heart. She rolled her eyes at his shamelessness, though warmth flickered in her chest. Years ago you would not have said such words. He smiled, the lines at the corners of his eyes softening. Years ago I was a fool who thought power was more important than love. I have spent this lifetime trying to prove otherwise. Silence fell, broken only by the rustle of blossoms. Li Xiu turned her gaze toward the horizon, where the palace walls gleamed in the distance. She remembered the vow she had once made, to never again let herself be caged. And yet, here she was within the palace once more. But this time she had chosen it. Chosen him. Her freedom had not been lost. It had simply taken a different shape. She squeezed his hand gently, her voice quiet but steady. Li Feng, I will walk beside you. Not because of fate, not because of duty. But because I choose you. For a moment he looked stunned, as though he scarcely believed her words. Then his hand tightened around hers, his voice rough with emotion. Then this life is enough. Even if heaven denies us another. The plum blossoms swayed above them, scattering petals like blessings from the sky. And for the first time in 2 lifetimes, Li Xiu felt at peace.